All right. What's good, fam? Can't tell you guys how relieved I am to be saying that we are 1 week away from UFC 324. And then right after that, we have UFC 325. And there's a couple fight nights already scheduled. We're back, baby. And I'm glad we are back. These have been the longest and roughest 6 weeks of my life. I had to find new hobbies, make new friends, touch grass, pick up a book. I hope the UFC never does this again. 1, 2, 3 weeks max without UFC fights. But 6 weeks, they did the MMA community dirty, having gone this long without any scheduled fights. So we've made it. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We are 1 week away from UFC 324. And today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my most confident picks for the card. And then also my least confident picks, fights that I'm staying away from. And I have no bets on those fights. So I'll be sharing those with you guys as well. So let's get into my most confident picks. And first off, I do want to say some of these are pretty self-explanatory, pretty obvious. However, I'll talk about them a little bit as well, such as my first most confident pick, which is going to be Ateba Gautier. This dude is a savage. I've talked about this before, but this guy, I'm telling you guys, keep an eye on him. Keep him on your radar for 2026 because he is going to run through everyone up until maybe the top 5. I feel like when you reach the upper echelon of divisions, the guys game plan a lot better, have way better fight IQ. However, up until then, this dude is going to run through any opponent you put in front of him. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen here. He is fighting against Andre Puliev. And I believe he will knock him out within the first round, if not the second. So give me Ateba Gautier as my first most confident pick. Then, by the way, these are not in order. I do want to preface and say that ahead of time. But then my second most confident pick on the list is Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar is going to go in there and get it done against Davison Figueiredo. Umar is in his prime. He, as everyone knows, is Khabib's cousin, but he has amazing striking and grappling. He is a great overall fighter, one of the top in the division. His only loss is to Merab, and I believe if he fights Merab again, he's the type of fighter to make the right adjustments and reads to win a rematch. And I believe that would be the case if he fought Merab again. He's already been in the octagon with him for 5 rounds. He fought him with a broken hand. So I think a fully healthy Umar, already having experience being in the octagon with Merab, goes out there and beats him the second time. So I see no problem with him beating Davison Figueiredo. I think he can beat him on the feet, on the ground. He could do whatever he wants in this fight. And granted, that's no disrespect to Figgy, but Figgy is towards the latter end of his career. He has pretty much one foot out the door. I think he's like 1 or 2 fights away from retiring. So pretty confident in Umar there. And then one of my favorite picks of the card, and my third on the list, is Natalia Silva. You guys know how I feel about her. I think this girl is going to be a future champ. And I think she's going to go out there and style on Rose. No disrespect to Rose. I think Rose is a great fighter, former champ. She even showed improvement throughout her career. But Natalia Silva is on another level. She's different, man. And she knows how to mix it up so well. Her strikes are insanely fast. And I think she's going to piece up Rose. It might be a competitive fight, but give me Natalia Silva to get it done. And then fourth on the list, I got Waldo Cortez Acosta, who is fighting against Derek Lewis. in my head, I had a list. I was like Waldo Cortez Acosta on one side of the paper, then Derek Lewis on the other. Then I listed Waldo Cortez Acosta, athletic, young, solid chin, good striking defense, fight IQ, meaning he can take someone down if they're primarily a striker like he did against Rebelis de Spain. So I have all these attributes for Waldo Cortez Acosta. He did lose against Pavlovich, which was just one wrinkle, but against a very high level guy. And then on the Derek Lewis side, I got one punch knockout power. So although Derek Lewis can knock out anyone, I don't see him landing cleanly on Waldo. I think Waldo's striking defense is good enough to avoid those big punches. And if he wants, he can just take Derek Lewis down, wear him down a little bit, gas him out, and then eventually get him out in the later rounds or maybe win a decision. Who knows? But I don't see Waldo Cortez Acosta losing here against Derek Lewis unless he gets caught, which is a possibility. But I got Waldo. And then fifth most confident pick, Sean O'Malley. I like Sean O'Malley here against Song Yadong. I think this is a good stylistic matchup for him. And it honestly sets him up really well if he goes out there and gets a win in spectacular fashion for potentially maybe a title shot. Now that he's on the co-main, there's more pressure without the Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes fight. There's more pressure on Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong, as well as Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett to put on a show, especially since it's the first Paramount card and the first card of the year. So there's a lot of writing that's going in on the co-main and main event. And honestly, we all know that the UFC loves Sean O'Malley. This guy has gotten favorable matchups in the past, and I believe if he goes out there and puts out Song Yadong, or at least puts on a striking masterclass, he can be next in line for a title shot. I do think Merab is deserving of it just because of all that he did in 2025. And on top of that, he was able to build his brand and become, have a following and become pretty popular. That he is deserving of a rematch against Peter Yan, even though I believe Peter Yan wins that rematch. However, after that, Sean O'Malley is next in line. The story writes itself because Sean O'Malley is the only person in the recent past to have a win over Peter Yan. And Sean O'Malley has probably the biggest following in the bantamweight division. He's a name. Peter Yan is probably going to want to avenge that loss to Sean O'Malley. He is the champ. So I think the UFC is going to push for that fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if they skip Merab and Sean O'Malley gets that title shot against Peter Yan. But who knows? Who knows what the matchmakers are going to do there. But all I know is I think Sean O'Malley is going to go in there. And I went back and saw the fight with Song Yadong and Henry Cejudo. And Henry Cejudo was tagging Song Yadong. And I was surprised. Henry Cejudo, later in his career, not as fast, shorter fighter. And he still was keeping it somewhat competitive. Even though Song Yadong was winning that fight, I think Sean O'Malley, with the reach, his striking capabilities, I think he pieces up Song Yadong in the feet, where Song Yadong is probably going to try to mix in the takedowns, the grappling, and the wrestling. However, Sean O'Malley has pretty good defense against anyone that is not a Georgian or honestly Dagestani, because I think if he fights Umar would take him down. But aside from that, I think Sean O'Malley has great takedown defense. And against a guy like Song Yadong, he's either going to stuff the takedowns or work his way back up and then on the feet do what Sean O'Malley does. So give me Sean O'Malley as my fifth most confident pick. And then last but not least, I got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. I know in my live dog video, I did have Justin Gaethje by KO as being live, and it is live. I do believe Justin has a puncher's chance. However, Patty's just shown so much improvement, or at least I've seen so much improvement in him, that he is most likely going to go out there and get a win either by submission, or I can see a situation where he grounds and pounds him after taking him down and controlling him. So Paddy Pimblett, from his Jared Gordon fight that I saw where he had his chin out, was more reckless, to his fight against Michael Chandler where he dialed in, he looked locked, his striking was crisp, he was mixing it up well, completely different fighter. And I think that's what we're going to see against Justin Gaethje. He's going to know what to do. At the end of the day, I think he wants the belt. So even if he needs to take him down, he will. And the fact that, and I don't like the fact that Justin Gaethje's coach, Trevor Whitman, came out and said that Justin Gaethje is most likely retiring if he loses this fight. That's not something we want to hear when a fighter is going into a championship bout. So give me Paddy the Baddy to get it done as my last most confident pick. And then I did want to talk to you guys about my least confident picks, or at least the fights that I'm staying away, or I would recommend staying away. So that being said, I got 3. And for my first least confident pick is Charles Johnson. I spoke about Alex Perez being a live dog, and I think he is. Even though I think Charles Johnson is the better striker, he is carrying some momentum from that Loner Kavanaugh win. And Alex Perez is coming off of, I believe, 2 losses. He's lost the last 4 out of his 5. I'm kind of swayed just because I did go back and see Alex Perez fight Nicolau, and he came out explosive, man. He did what he needed to do in that first round. He mixed it up well. He threw kicks, shots to the body, and I can see that exact same thing happening here, where Charles Johnson gives up the first round, then kind of dials it in, wins the striking exchanges in the second, and then leaves it up to whoever wants it the most in the third round. So I wouldn't go throwing money on Charles Johnson at minus 215 against an Alex Perez who's had the higher level of experience. He's fought guys like Tatsuro Taira, Pantoja, Muhammad Makayev. It's going to be a close fight, and I don't think Charles Johnson should be at a minus 215, so I wouldn't bet on him, and that's why he is one of my more least confident picks. And then we got Modestas Bukauskas. He is fighting against Nikita Krylov. I go back and watch tape on these two guys, and I think Nikita Krylov is the overall better fighter, but I am not betting on the guy who's coming off of back-to-back KO losses. Modestas has been on a bit of a resurgence. He's on a 4-fight win streak, granted not the highest level of competition. So that's why I'm kind of torn, because we have one guy who I believe is the better fighter in Krylov, but the fact that you're coming off of 2 KO losses, I don't know where your head's at. I don't know how your chin is doing, and you're fighting a guy who is on a little bit of a streak himself and has built momentum. So it's kind of a clash. And even though I do have Modestas as my pick, I'm kind of torn if I would bet on him or not. So that's why he's on this list. And then last but not least, we got Josh Hokett. In the beginning, I was kind of confident on Josh Hokett just because I hadn't seen tape on Denzel Freeman. I was like watching Josh Hokett on the regional scene. I was like, all right, this guy's pretty good. He knows how to wrestle. He could take guys down. And he ground and pounded, I think, some guy. I forgot who on the regional scene. So I was like, all right, sounds like a good one. I did see Denzel Freeman's first fight in the UFC. It was kind of boring. Then I go watch him on the regional scene, and I'm just like, damn, I'm kind of impressed by Denzel Freeman. He was defending takedowns. His striking looked pretty clean. He knew what to do on the ground. I was kind of impressed, where I was like, oh shit, like, am I flipping my pick here, or should I stay with Josh Hokett? And at the end of the day, I am picking Josh Hokett here because I think he could possibly do enough on the feet, but then mix up the takedowns a little bit more. I feel like he has that pressure pace where Denzel Freeman is probably going to get maybe a little bit comfortable in the striking. However, I am torn on the pick here. these two guys are fairly new to the UFC, and I'm just watching regional tape. So it's like I can't make too much of it. So I think this fight's going to be a 50-50, especially at Josh Hokett at minus 220. I'm not going to lay the chalk on the minus 220 Josh Hokett against a Denzel Freeman who looked pretty good on the regional scene. I will say that. So even though I have him as my pick, I'm probably going to stay away from that one too. So there you have it, guys. Those are my most confident picks and least confident picks. So just to recap, I got Ateba, and if I'm going to put these in order, I'm going to just give you guys that. I would probably say this is kind of in order. Ateba Gautier, Umar Nurmagomedov, Natalia Silva. I'd probably put maybe change up Waldo and Sean, or actually maybe change up Patty and Sean. Yeah. So maybe Ateba first, Umar second, Natalia Silva, Waldo Cortez Acosta, and maybe switch Patty and Sean. But this is actually probably my thinking went into this actually being like from top to bottom. So these are my most confident picks for UFC 324. And then my least confident picks, Charles Johnson, Modestas Bukauskas, and Josh Hokett. I'm staying off these guys. I think there's a lot better spots for betting on UFC 324. And I think these guys would maybe props or round props would be good on these fights. However, in terms of money lines, I'm not laying down a minus 215 Charles Johnson, minus 220 Josh Hokett, and the minus 170 Modestas. So there you guys have it. Thank you guys for staying until the end. Please stay tuned. I have my official bets video coming out. There, I'm going to have my cycle parlay, the one and only safety parlay, and a couple money line bets that I'm going to share with you guys. I just been waiting for the props to drop on the sports books to finally release that video. But I've been researching. I've been doing my homework. So be prepared for that. Thank you guys. Please like and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next one.